So in Seaborn, we have a data set called flights data. So let's use sns.load underscore dataset and just pass in the keyword flights. Let's check the head of this dataset. So here we have only three columns. We have a year column, we have a month column, and we have passengers. So this is basically the number of passengers for some airline for this given year and month. So let's look at the info to understand this data set in more detail. So total there are 144 entries, ranging row index goes from 0 to 143, and just three columns, no null values. We have integer for the year and for passenger, and we have month. So this data we can arrange in a matrix format. So let's say we will use pivot table. Here we will name the variable fp. What we will do is flights dot pivot table, and here we need to pass in the values, index and column. So for index we will use the year column. For column we will pass in month, and for values we will pass in the passenger. So let's check this data. So here what we have now is we have a index which is for years, which goes from 1949 to 60. Then on the columns we have all the months, which goes from Jan to December, and then we have all the remaining data arranged in a tabular format. So you can see that for year 1949, for January there were 112 passengers, 118 for Feb, 132 for March. Similarly for the year 1956, let's say for December, there were 306 passengers. So now we have our data in a matrix format. Now this is a very complicated table. It's not very intuitive. You cannot just read it and say where the data was high and where the data was low. You cannot just infer information just by looking at this. So it's much easier to use a heat map here. Heat map will just put colors on this each individual cells to make it visually understandable and intuitive.